everybody, it's your old pal Brian Hunt, and welcome to another episode of 60 Seconds of Risk. Today, coming from a beautiful Churchill Park in North Dallas. It's a gorgeous day, and I have a very special guest to have on the episode today. I'm very excited to have this gentleman. I've known him for a number of years. He is retired Vice Admiral David Robinson, United States Navy, and he's going to talk about an issue which I think a lot of people don't understand or truly comprehend. It's regarding the right-of-way, the right of passage, and specifically how disruption to supply chains in the South China Sea might have a large impact that a lot of you don't understand or are aware of. So, but obviously, Admiral, would just love a quick synopsis of your background, your role, not only in the Navy but after Booz Allen. Just kind of let the audience know about yourself a little bit.
Well, 33 years in the Navy, surface officer, and then 10 years at Booz Allen Hamilton in the Washington, D.C. area.
Absolutely. So, and I think my understanding, towards the end of your career in the Navy, you were in charge of the South Pacific, correct?
Well, actually, I was in charge of all the surface ships in the Pacific Fleet.
So, okay,
Yes.
Sorry, bigger picture, yeah. So when it comes to the South Pacific, you might know a thing or two about the importance of that area.
Yes.
Right. So obviously, people have seen in the past number of years that risk can come from anywhere. And in my line of work, we've been talking about pandemics and the concern about pandemics for years, but no one seemed to really pay attention until it actually occurred. And I think we've all sort of suffered the consequences of seeing too much reliance of product coming out of the South China Sea, China, Taiwan, whatever the case may be, and seeing that disruption for the past couple of years where still you can't find the car you necessarily want right now. You still got to wait. And that was a sort of an act of God, unforeseen, but maybe unintentional event. But I think we've kind of seen the past, unfortunately, 5 months, when say Russian invasion of Ukraine, where Russia's used territorial historical significance to take over Ukraine as a justification, and we're starting to see the impacts on steel and wheat that can have a broader impact on the U.S. economy. And during the past couple of years, I've been doing a lot of reading, and I read recently your colleague Admiral David's book about 2034, and I read that. I go, I don't think people quite understand the significance of the South China Sea to the global economy. So, from your perspective, sir, from the Navy and working at Booz Allen, how would you, summarize the significance of the South China Sea?
Well, it is a major lake, if you will, that about a third of the world commerce passes through.
Correct.
And the Navy, of course, exists for wartime capabilities, but the other half of the Navy's mission is maintaining freedom of navigation,
correct,
freedom of the seas. And so we spend a lot of time in the South China Sea. We spend a lot of time doing freedom of navigation operations in the Taiwan Straits, around the Spratlys and so forth. But what is at stake here is a major move by China to in fact establish economic zones throughout the South China Sea that would not only give them mining rights and undersea privileges, but also puts them in the position of interrupting maritime traffic.
And from what I understand, and obviously read from things like Ian Bremner and Ray Dalio as far as what's been going on there, correct me if I'm wrong, standard maritime law gives a country X amount of miles outside of their land as far as their area. And correct, is it 20 miles or is it?
It is 12 miles.
12 miles. But the Chinese, and what they've found, the 10 red dots throughout South China, have extended that further than beyond 12 miles. They're claiming more than what typical historical maritime law would justify, correct?
Well, there are a couple of things at play. One is the sovereign territory, which you're talking to.
Yeah.
Used to be 3 miles.
3 miles, okay.
That was based on how far a cannon could fire.
Fair enough.
In the 18th century.
Okay.
And so that was extended to 12 miles. But there's also a thing called the economic something zone.
Mm-hmm.
That can go out to 200 miles.
Okay, all right.
And so that's what they are claiming.
Correct.
Now, one of the difficulties is, and not just a few years ago, the UN declared that any maritime disagreements
Mm-hmm.
would be settled under the UN Freedom of the Sea
Okay.
Act.
Correct.
The U.S. is not a signatory to that. That
okay.
puts us at a disadvantage
Yeah.
in this entire thing. And periodically it comes up whether or not we should be signatories or not. And we have decided over the years that it is we feel too restrictive to our interest to sign it.
Okay.
But there are many who think that we should be in that treaty.
So obviously the whole concept of, in my line of risk, risk is pervasive throughout organizations. The military thinks about plans all the time as far as the worst case scenario. And working with my clients, I try to help them think about 2 steps ahead, what the significance might be. And especially with globalization over the years, supply chains have been stretched over so that we're all seeing disruptions, too much reliance on things coming out of China or South China have had impacts domestically. If you sort of stop and think about where we are now and where things are going, say, the next 5, 10, 15 years, if you were to stop and say, everybody, think about this or this, what would be that 1 or 2 kernels of suggestions or knowledge you'd like people to understand? This is a critical thing that we need to be worrying about.
Well, there's several aspects. One would be national defense, and what are the products that we are relying on from overseas that we should bring back in to domestic mining or manufacturing. That is expensive.
Yep.
The other thing that has taken hold over the last few years is what they call just-in-time logistics.
Correct.
That is a significant weak point, evidenced during the pandemic, and that has to be reevaluated in certain industries. That is expensive. And so the American public will not be writ large included in these debates, but the American public will feel the results,
Correct.
Whatever they might decide.
Yeah, because historically, manufacturing was low overseas. You move manufacturing overseas would help your bottom line. And as long as that kept on flowing, fantastic. But we're kind of see too much reliance or dependence on one certain area or company or region. It can't come back to bite you if you don't have a plan for mitigation of that loss or disruption.
You're exactly right.
Correct. And so that's, I guess, on parts of my role as far as trying to help you understand what the impact might be in the future. And I don't know everything. That's why I expect experts like you to come talk to me about it. So I greatly appreciate your time, Admiral. I hope you enjoyed this episode as always. If there's a certain topic or individual you'd like to see in the next episode, please leave me a note or message on LinkedIn. You can also find these on my channel at YouTube as well on Twitter. So again, on behalf of Admiral Robinson, thank you so much for your time. And more importantly, sir, thank you for your service. Everybody, see you next time.